back with Cindy Holsclaw, and we just learned this really beautiful technique for bezeling rivolis. This is so pretty, Cindy, and using half teala beads. So you have a unique way of attaching these together that you can make into a bracelet or using those components, making other jewelry.
Exactly. So I finished my component. I've cut off my tail thread. I've secured it. I weave through the back, and then I trim it real close. And I've left my working thread on these in order to attach them together. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line them up real close together, just like that. So you can see the embellishment edge here, they kind of stagger, kind of like a zipper almost.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm coming out of one of these middle 15s on the edge of the embellishment, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a middle 15 on my next component, and I'm going to pass through it like that.
All right.
And then I'm going to go back to my first component, to the next embellishment. Then I'm going to pass through the next middle 15 on that next one, like that. And when I pull it all through, then it gets nice and close together.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do that one more time.
So you don't have to actually add any more beads at this point, you're just zipping it.
Exactly. And that brings up a good point, because you could add more beads, and that would give a little bit of separation to these components, and that would also make a really cool look to it. In this case, I've just left it real simple, and I've just connected them together using the beads that I already have here.
Right, it really does keep the focus on the crystal.
Exactly.
And the bezel that you made. Now, do you need to reinforce it several times?
That is a good idea. What I usually will do is I will go back through some of these beads here, and then I'll go back along the edge, coming out in the same place as before, and then I'll weave back through that one more time just to reinforce it a little bit.
Okay.
After I do that, then I will work in this working thread. I usually work to the back of my component, and then I'll secure it and then tie it off on the back.
So circle around the back one more time, or until you run out of thread?
Sometimes, yeah. You don't want to get to the point where you can't get through the beads anymore.
Right.
But yeah, you can go through them as many times as you need to reinforce it.
And then when you're ready to attach the clasp, what technique do you use for that?
Yeah, so what I'll do is once I've connected all 7 of them together, I'll leave my working thread on my end to do the clasp. And I'll show you over here on this finished bracelet how I've done it. So I'm coming out of one of these, again, one of those middle 15s on the edge of the embellishment. And I try to line it up so that if this bead here is completely lined up with the rest of the bracelet, I want to come out through one of the embellishments on either side. And it doesn't matter which one, because you're going to be attaching the clasp to both of them. You'll just start with one of them and then do the other one.
Okay.
But I will come out of one of these embellishments in the middle 15, and I'll pick up a loop of 7 to 9 seed beads, pass through that loop on my clasp, and I pass through this whole loop again with thread again to reinforce it.
Right.
Once I've done that, I'll work down through to the other side embellishment here, and I'll just repeat the same thing in order to add my clasp through both loops.
And you can also switch up the size. So to do that, it looks like you have some different sizes of rivolis there.
Yeah. So in this example here, you can see this rivoli is a little bit bigger. This is a size, this is an 18 millimeter rivoli. And like I said, I can use the same construction technique to bezel this one. And this adds just a little bit more length to this finished bracelet.
Sure.
So, and I don't just have to do the middle one. I could do replace the middle one with an 18. I could replace 3 of them with an 18, or I could do 5 or 7, and that gives us a longer bracelet with the same technique.
Yeah, and you can use, there are so many different ways that you can use these and to create a beautiful construction. The earrings are a gorgeous example too of using the half tealas to bezel.
Yeah, and so in this example, you see I have a little bit of a different edging. So what I do there, as I talked about the first way that I do the edging with the half tealas.
Yeah.
In order to make it a little bit asymmetrical, I only do a couple of that embellishment, and for the rest of the embellishment, I just leave off the half teala. So I just add the 15s like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So it's still finishing the edge, but it has a more subtle effect, I guess you might say.
Exactly.
And then on your pendant, it looks like you're using the same technique. That's a gorgeous effect too.
Exactly. So on the pendant here, this is a 27 millimeter stone crystal. And again, same technique, same thread path, just a slightly, we just increased the number of seed beads that we start with, so.
Yeah, let's take a look at the bail too, because here on the back you can see how it's looped around with your double drilled beads, or 2-hole beads there.
Exactly, yeah, and so that's a nice, easy bail you can add to make a nice matching pendant for your bracelet.
That's really pretty.
Yeah.
And then you also have some other ideas for using the 2-hole beads.
Yeah, so I'm a geometry nerd. I love making beaded beads. And so these are a couple of my more advanced ideas where I've used 2-hole beads. And the construction techniques are a little bit challenging. I sometimes get a little carried away with myself. But you can see in these earrings over here how the reveille is a bit inset. And so you kind of get this 3D effect with the half tealas just kind of extending those sparkles and facets of the crystal outward.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at your necklace because you really can see how those half tealas radiate the light out.
Yeah, exactly.
These are beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us, Cindy.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a delight.